Can't stop reliving all the things that we did. You probably hate me for being such a stupid, spoiled kid. I've tried to move on, write some new songs, but nothing's ever as good as a past. Could be my last chance to enhance my way of life, remove your heart and my mask. But I'm still leaving, sometimes seeing graduation with the rest of our class. And how I sat there with your mother, wondering if young relationships last. Our first date I made shapes with Panera's bread. And our first kiss I was so nervous, had to give me the go-ahead. Your emotions always stronger than mine. That inflection in your voice, I think I love you, I about lost my mind. December 12th, that was the day in your head. You chose it early like the way that it read. This feeling in my chest, it chains me in bed. Your pretty face, your big brown eyes, I want them out of my head.
Howdy, everybody. Howdy, 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 howdy. It is the SchuBros. We are coming live to you 15th of October. We're halfway through the month. We are getting ready for the election. Kyle, have you voted yet?
No, let the excitement die down. I knew that the first couple days were going to be jam-packed, and I decided that I was going to wait till, the end of the week to try to go vote, to kind of let that initial surge get through, and then after that I would be able to easily get in and have no issues going to vote. I mean, I've got 3 weeks to do so I'm not real worried. And then if, worst case scenario is I don't get it done.
Are you saying that you're being suppressed as a voter because you had to wait in line?
I did not have to wait in line because I didn't even attempt to go.
Bryan College Station, blatant voter suppression, guys. Blatant voter suppression against the bearded white people. So I'm facing the same thing here. I've gone the last 2 days, and due to the COVID restrictions, they've limited the amount of open election places for early voting. So it's pretty sparse on the early voting side. So
it's a pretty good amount of early voting locations here in Bryan College Station. Like I said, I hadn't gone yet due to the fact that I knew there were going to be a decent amount of people that were excited about getting out to vote. Mm-hmm. So I just figured I'd wait till the end of the week, go get it done at the end of the week.
So that's where I've gone in both days, and I could have gone earlier, right? I could have gotten there early in the morning and probably been able to avoid the line. But today, it was probably about a 2.5 hour wait to get in, and my rationale was the same as yours. I've got time. Dan John, so we have had Mark Lobenier scheduled to come on the show twice. And he's still scheduled to come on the show. He will come on the show eventually. He's profusely apologetic for not being able to make the show tonight. The reason for he's not able to make the show tonight is his daughter's soccer team won the district championship. His daughter's a freshman playing on the varsity team, so they're going out to eat, having a family dinner. Can't blame him there. Family always is going to come first. So he will be on the show. But his comment there is about the overhead press. Kyle, are you aware of that story? So the little Cuomo brother had a picture of himself while he was in quarantine, and he had a 100-pound dumbbell that he was supposedly doing nonchalantly doing overhead presses with a 100-pound dumbbell, which is not easy, right? Like, I mean, anybody who weightlifts knows a 100-pound dumbbell doing overhead presses, and he's just holding it up above his head. That's not an insignificant amount of weight. So Mark Lobenier challenged him to an open contest to see if he could actually do it, and that they would raise money and put it, he would donate the money to whatever charity Cuomo wanted it to go to, and that way they could, have some fun, raise some money, see what happened. And he's come out and said, look, I understand it was supposed to be a joke. I understand that more than likely he had a fake weight, but that was kind of the whole point, is he represented it as if it was a real weight, and I think it'd be funny to try to see him actually lift the real weight. So, yeah. Other than that, I mean, there's a lot of things going on. So we just finished, kind of like a dueling piano bar. We had a dueling town hall. So, did you watch any of the town
I
halls?
didn't watch. I didn't watch the Trump one. I was watching Big Brother with my wife. That's our thing, is to watch Big Brother together. I thought for
To
sure
admit
that I
that
was going to be able to
publicly.
flip over to the Trump one right after that and watch it, and the Trump one had already finished. I was like, oh man. So then I went and flipped it over to the Biden one and listened to him for a little bit after that, and I was like, this dude's just like, I felt like the teacher from Billy Madison. You know, nowhere in this incoherent ramble have you made any sense, and we were all dumber for listening to it.
Yeah.
But that was just my opinion. I know a lot of the lefties on Twitter were just gushing, and and then the people on ABC were just gushing over how he was being so sincere and talking directly to the people. But we kind of finally got an answer about court packing, and it's still more of a non-answer than an answer, but still allows us to know that, yeah, he's definitely going to pack the court. I love the fact that the left has changed the narrative on court packing.
Yeah.
They are making it seem like putting a justice in to fill a vacancy is packing the court. Oh my God, he's packed the court by placing 3 people on there. No, he's filled vacancies. Packing the court is when you don't get your way, and then you add more justices to counterbalance what your predecessor did, so that you now have the majority.
So, did you see the other day
Which
that
it would take 4 justices.
Did you see that the other day that Webster's dictionary literally
Not Dexter.
Yeah, not Dexter's, that's laboratory, for all of you 90s kids who actually had cable. We didn't, so we didn't get to watch that very often. But the fact is that the Webster's dictionary, so there was a big kerfuffle during the hearings, where she said sexual preference. And some Democrat senators said, no, it's not
from Hawaii.
It's not sexual preference. That implies that people could change their preference. Well, I thought it was fluid, right? I thought we could. So literally, Webster's dictionary goes in that night and changes the definition of preference to not include sexual orientation and label.
No, it just labeled it
offensive.
As offensive. Yeah, that's sorry, not oligarchy. That's another big word that's been in the news lately. That's Orwellian.
Yeah,
it's very Orwellian.
Yeah, just to literally change the definition of a word to match what your political not adversaries, but to match what your political proponents, your political allies, there's the word, your political allies want it to be, to harm your opponent. So we saw a lot of that this week. This has kind of been a week of like mass media has gone, social media, all the big tech firms, and even, any kind of thing like that has gone full of force this week to suppress any type of conservative talk, conservative movement, conservative anything. And we saw this with the Hunter Biden story. So I don't know how much you've gotten to read about the Hunter Biden story, about the New York Post coming out, and supposedly, that we've gotten emails, we've gotten pictures, and there's people now who are claiming, which is funny to me, oh, we don't even know if this is actually Hunter Biden, when there's pictures on the drive of Hunter Biden. I mean, you can't deny that at least Hunter Biden was somehow involved in this, because there's pictures of him on the drive, pictures that aren't available. Well, they are now, but pictures that weren't available anywhere else. It wasn't something where you could just go out and, type in a picture to Google of Hunter Biden crack pipe, and this would be the image that come up. So these images were on that computer, were on that hard drive. And now we see, Facebook suppressed it, Twitter suppressed it. The major news, they're just not talking about it.
Twitter didn't just suppress it; they banned people for sharing it, to include Kayleigh McEnany, like to ban or suspend the acting press secretary. The presidential press secretary is a very bold move. And like Roland Martin posted something today about Geraldo posting it. He's like, Geraldo, when are you going to delete this tweet? And I was like, Roland, obviously it's true with how hard they work to suppress it. I mean, why else would they go to that length to make sure the American people couldn't find out about it. I mean, all they had to do was go pick up a piece of paper, like an actual piece of paper in the New York Post, and they would have been able to read it. But online, where most people like to digest their information, yeah, they were doing everything they could to suppress it. And then Tim Pool covered this morning. One of the official government websites, I think it was house.gov, posted it on their website so that people could read it, and they blocked that, or they marked it spam, so that if you clicked on the link to that article that was on house.gov, it came up as being a suspicious link, spammy link.
Yeah.
Which will get a lot of people from actually clicking on it, clicking through, because they're afraid they're going to get a virus.
Well, what was funny then is you get on the news, and the Biden campaign is being asked about it, of course, by somebody in the news, a few people, and their response is, well, Twitter threw it off, so that obviously proves it's not true. No, that doesn't prove it's not true.
Obviously.
What that proves is that y'all have friends and allies within Twitter. Kamala Harris's former press secretary is now working at Twitter. We know that you have friends and allies working there that are working in cahoots with you. It wasn't fact.
Wait, didn't one of Twitter's high ups just become Biden's campaign manager or campaign staffer or something of that nature?
I know that Kamala's former press secretary for her presidential campaign is now working at Twitter, and is one of the people who gets to decide what content is allowed and what is not. So he very well.
I could have swore Biden hired someone from Twitter recently.
And it very well can be, but I don't know that, off the top of my head. But what we do know is that nobody is fact checked. So let's be cautious, right? Let's be overly cautious. Let's err on the side of caution. We can't 100% corroborate this information at the moment. There's good signs that it's true, because again, Hunter Biden's pictures are included in the information. So you would suggest that this is legitimate information, but that doesn't mean that there's not false information sprinkled in to real information, right? That doesn't mean that somebody didn't go and create a bunch of fake emails and throw in there. That could have happened. I'm not saying it can't happen.
But they've verified that email address from the Ukrainian person has existed since before 2014 and still exists today. Mm-hmm. So I'm hard pressed to say that wasn't a fake email.
I agree with you. I think the signs are there that it's most likely real email. I'm just going to, for YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, for your censors, it's not corroborated fully data yet. We don't have it 100% correct.
Neither was the New York Times article about Trump's
returns.
Taxes.
Yeah, so that's
and
where
how it can violate Trump's tax returns, which were obviously either leaked or hacked, don't qualify for the same protections as this New York Post article.
But
I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So
what's good for the goose got to be good for the gander, man.
Twitter says that they have a policy against hacked information that could be personally harmful to somebody. But yeah, they allow
the information wasn't hacked; it was legally obtained, because when whoever dropped off the laptop didn't pick it up within the certain time frame and then didn't pay for the services, the owner of that shop then places a lien on the device and takes ownership of it until they come back and pay for it. And I read somewhere that the gentleman who owned the shop turned it over the way he did because he was fearful that the Bidens were going to pull a Clinton on him. So
there's people now. They're saying, well, this is obviously fake because this shop owner is a Trump supporter. He supported Trump on Twitter. That doesn't mean the information's fake. It just means that he supports Trump and also happened to be in possession of his laptop. So, a couple things are true here that we know. So, and this is where I'm debating people. So let's not debate in the what might be and might not be true, because that's where they can get you, right? That's where they want to go with you. Let's debate in what we know to be fact, what we know to be true, and then make them defend those points instead of letting them get off into the conspiratorial weeds. So what we know are facts is that Joe Biden said that he had never spoken to Hunter Biden about his job at Burisma, that he had never, talked to him about it. So he said that he was not aware that it was a conflict of interest. Nobody had ever told him it wasn't a conflict of interest, and that he didn't talk to Hunter at all. Well, a couple things now. We have the State Department absolutely confirming, we have members of the State Department absolutely confirming that they told Joe Biden to his face that, yes, this is a conflict of interest, that Hunter being here hurts us and hurts our ability in anti-corruption policies in Ukraine. It makes us look hypocritical. They told him. Then we have pictures of Joe Biden with other members of Burisma's executive board. Now, those were also just personal friends of Hunter Biden, so maybe they're just golfing with friends and they're not discussing business. But yesterday, the Biden campaign releases that, yeah, we did have a meeting, an informal meeting with an actual Ukrainian executive of Burisma in 2014, but it was short and we can't remember what was discussed because it was informal. It's not on our official calendar. Well, if I was going to bribe somebody, I don't think I'd write a memo about it to myself and put it in my official notes, right? I'm not going to sit here and put in. So we know for a fact already that Joe Biden lied about not talking to Hunter about the job. He did talk to Hunter about the job. He knew what Hunter was doing. He knew it was a conflict of interest. Before he went to have the prosecutor fired, he knew that the State Department thought it was a conflict of interest.
Do you have any thoughts on the whole daddy gets 50%?
So that's an interesting line, and that's one that we're going to have to get flushed out.
My guy.
Yeah, my guy. Yeah, Pops is what he said there, which I love because people are like, wait, is he referring to Biden or is he referring to Corn Pop? Which one is it? Is it Biden or is it Corn Pop? It could be either, it could be or, it could be all. So what's funny there is that that's kind of a new one that's just come out. And it seems as if they were funneling money through Hunter so as Joe could look like the everyman, and not appear in his tax returns to be this wealthy man that he actually is. So, yeah, Dan Johns, you're right. He can't remember last week. Yeah, there's no chance he can remember what happened in 2015. But the truth is that, we've already caught Biden several times lying. What they've tried to pull today is, oh, well, if that's illegal, then Ivanka Trump having patents in China is illegal. And it's like, okay, so there's a couple of things here. Number one, Ivanka's patents would have happened regardless of Trump being the president, right? Trump being the president would not have interfered with Ivanka getting that job. Ivanka already had a business in place. She already was known for her fashion line. She already known was investing. So she had a business. She was in business well before. Hunter was not in oil and gas. Hunter had no business in oil and gas. Hunter had no business in China doing any of these things. The only qualification he had for any of these jobs is that he's Joe Biden's son. Ivanka has qualifications outside of being Donald Trump's daughter. Now, the other part of that is Ivanka Trump had business in China before Trump was the president. So him being the president, again, is a moot point because she was already in business in China when he wasn't even a politician, when he had nothing to do with politician. Joe Biden's been a politician since Hunter Biden has been alive. So you can't say that anything Hunter Biden has done is not while his father had been a politician. The other portion of this is that then you'd have to look into the actual conflict of interest. Whether or not somebody is actually getting something for something. And you could say, okay, well, if Trump was giving favorable treatment to China over the last 3 years in a trade deal negotiation and not tariffing everything that they had come into the country and putting blockades on their goods and being a complete jerk to them, where the left was criticizing him relentlessly for his regard to China and not being softer on China, then you would say that Trump was utilizing his position to aid his daughter. But you can't argue that in this case because, if anything, Trump hurt Ivanka's business in China because of his hard dealing with China, because of his tough negotiations. He didn't give them anything. He didn't give them any favorable treatment and then, in fact, give his daughter preferential treatment. So the thing is, like, oh, we know that China gave Hunter Biden a bunch of money, and then Joe Biden came back and said, well, they're not really our enemy, right? They're not even a threat to us. They're just, there's somebody on the sideline, and doing business with China is good, and we should do it, and we should be in business with them. So that's, son gets money, he gives preferential treatment to them. Son gets money from Burisma, he goes and utilizes government tax money to gain political, and everybody, this is the argument I don't get. They keep saying, well, everybody wanted this guy fired anyway. Apparently the Ukrainians didn't, because they didn't fire him. It took him threatening and leveraging $1 billion of funds for them to fire him. They had not fired him.
Yeah. How is that not quid pro quo?
That's exactly quid pro quo. The question is whether
if Biden had still been in office, let's say Biden was still vice president, Obama didn't get elected, was still in office. Let's just say he didn't get elected in 08, he got elected in 12.
He had a third term. Okay.
And all this information was coming out today, and Biden was still the vice president. Could they impeach the vice president?
Yeah, you can
and
impeach
therefore
the president
based on his inability to control his vice president.
So the question here is, everybody said that this was part of Obama's foreign policy. Now, I'm going to make a logical argument here. Biden in his speech, and when he tells us that how he got this guy fired, he says that he decided that he was going to put this condition on the money. The Ukrainians looked at him and said, Obama has already approved the money. You have no authority to do so. That signifies that in Biden's own words, Obama was not in position and did not want the condition placed on the aid, or at least had not specified to place the condition on the aid and had approved of releasing the aid without the condition. It was Biden who placed that condition. And he told the Ukrainians, when they said, you have no authority, he said, call the president. So basically, we don't know whether Obama would have or not have agreed with him doing so. It very well was likely a bluff, right? The Ukrainians had long known that he wanted this prosecutor fired. There was other outside parties that wanted the prosecutor fired. But that's the fact, is that Ukrainians did not want the prosecutor fired. Otherwise, they would have fired him. It would not have taken $1 billion threat to get his dismissal. They would have done it willingly had they wanted him to be dismissed. So the argument that, all of these other people wanted him dismissed, all of those people are outside of Ukraine and therefore should not be involved in Ukrainian politics. If you thought he was corrupt, then you can file charges in different courts or whatever else, but he's a Ukrainian official.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Burisma's president, oligarch, or whatever he was at the time, had been
Poroshenko
exiled outside of Ukraine for these actions, what was going on, why he was being investigated for in the first place. And he went to his buddies in the EU to put pressure on Ukraine to fire the investigator so that he could come back, because he wanted to come back to his native land.
That's what I agree with you there. I think what happened is we had a bunch of biased parties who were either friends and or on the payroll of the president of Burisma, and the president of Burisma wanted this investigation to go away. He knew that most likely he was going to end up in trouble if this investigation was allowed to go through. It's sort of the argument the left was making about Trump ending the special counsel probe, although he never did it, that, he's going to end the special counsel probe because he doesn't want to get in trouble. Except, again, he never actually ended the special counsel probe. So it's kind of the same thing, right? We had an investigator, a prosecutor who's investigating this guy, and all of a sudden, all of these people who are not Ukrainians, who don't work in Ukraine, who don't live in Ukraine, who technically should have no interest in Ukraine, want this prosecutor fired. And then we have the president of the United States, whose son works on the board of that company for that president, making at minimum $50,000 a month, mind you, with no qualifications for the job other than being the vice president's son. Joe Biden.
Let's do some math for the normal people who don't know how much money that is when you multiply it by 12.
That's $600,000.
That's $600,000 a year. Yeah. Hey, he would qualify for Biden's new tax policy, though.
So we'll get to that, because I've got a lot of data on that. I've been doing a lot of research on that tax plan. They are putting out a bunch of false information on that. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, because Biden's tax plan is not what they're portraying it to be. The studies do not say what they're saying it does. I've been looking into it. I've been actually looking. I've been posting on it on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, go ahead and make sure you're following me there. I post all this stuff there for you. If you want to ever go see it, you can share it. I post pictures. I take screenshots. I've gone in to the tax policy studies. I've gone into the Wharton Business School modelings. I've gone into all of these different studies and proven definitively where those studies do not say what Joe Biden's team is saying they say. They're taking a snippet out of it and portraying it out of context wildly to attempt to make an argument that does not exist in real life. Though there's one study that favors them. It's from Moody's, and that study does not include any external macroeconomic effects. So essentially, they are taking Biden's tax plan and just applying it as is, as if nothing else would change, that businesses wouldn't change their behavior whatsoever, and in that case, there's some positives to it. But all of the other studies, all of them, show that we not only will we lose jobs, we'll have a GDP deflation, not growth. Over 10 years, we'll lose GDP share, and wages will fall for the bottom, lower income people in the economy, and taxes will rise. Effective taxes will rise for every section of the market.
Yeah, I'm going to say he says he's not going to continue the Trump tax cuts, which if those go away, those immediately impact everybody across the board.
What he's given is he's given a 1 year doubling of what Trump already doubled, which is the child tax credit. So the child tax credit used to be $1,000 per child.
No, I'm talking just like the tax rate across the board.
I said
not the credit.
This is what they're using though to make this argument that the tax cuts will exist. They're using this 1 year metric because in his plan he's called for a 1 year doubling, and then to go back to where we were post Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which would be $1,000 per child. So right now it's $2,000 per child, which you can write off just for having a kid, right? So I have 6 kids because we just.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. Do we want to go ahead and make the announcements that have happened in the last 2 weeks for both of us?
I had a baby Monday. I didn't, as you can tell by my slim physique. I did not have a baby Monday, but my wife had a baby Monday. We welcomed our son. So it's our second son, our 6th child overall. And Kyle, you welcomed.
We had on 10-4, which, I'm having so much fun with it being a 10-4 good buddy, little baby. And her name is Cameron.
There you go. Cameron, not Cameron, Cameron.
Cameron, 2 A's.
Yeah. She ran, Cameron so far away.
And I got a text message from a viewer who said that Mark's last name is pronounced Lobliner.
Lobliner, okay.
Lobliner. Because he's also in the powerlifting scene. So
okay, well,
he would
Lobliner. Okay, if he'd come on the show, we could get him to correct us.
Not Loeb.
All right. So we'll get into the Biden tax plan a little bit more because I've been delving into this economically. I've been actually going through it and looking at it. And the first thing I can tell you is that any study that doesn't include macroeconomic effects is kind of not worth its weight in salt. The other part of this is let's not pretend that economists can't be biased in their metrics as well, right? So the old saying about models is that no model is right, but some are useful. So yeah, I can make a model do some things that I want it to do.
Just about anything you want to.
I can make data say whatever the hell I want it to if I'm really trying hard enough, right? I don't really have to work all that hard to manipulate data one way or the other. So, but let's get back to Hunter Biden in Ukraine because again, I want to go through this. He has no qualifications to work in oil and gas. He's never worked in oil and gas in his life. He's never worked in Ukraine in his life. He doesn't know anything about the market.
Had he been an executive up until that point? Had he ever?
He had been he had some what do you call it? Executive charges filed against him.
Been dismissed from the military.
Yeah. So,
but no. So if the argument could be made that if he had held a board position somewhere else, that he had been an executive in some other industry, even though he didn't know oil and gas, he still knew business. So that could be the qualification for getting on the board. He does
have a business degree, right? Like, so he did go to Yale. So let's not act like he's not. I don't think he's a moron. But no. I don't think he's, oil and gas is not an industry that you just jump into willy-nilly because you felt like it, right? It's an industry that if you don't have a clue what the fuck's going on, you're not going to succeed. because it's not an industry that you know, it's kind of a good old boy industry. It's kind of where you need to know people and you need to know how shit works. And if you don't, the learning curve is going to be pretty steep and you're not worth 50 grand a month. But we now have the emails that specifically say, from his own words, where he was saying, we need to sell the fact that we can influence with my guy, when he's referring to his father.
Yeah, and then it came out also that Yi offered him $10 million a year for the same, just for introductions.
All right.
Just for introductions. I want a job like that. I can introduce anybody to anybody.
We'll say it just to be certain that Twitter and Facebook and everybody at YouTube doesn't try to cancel us. Allegedly. So it looks damning for Biden if they would actually report on it. Then it looks like Biden has done something bad. We've seen Biden get very angry when questioned about this. And it was real funny.
Hey, fat.
Not just that, right? Like the guy questioned him about his son and he got in the guy's face and, don't you talk about my son, Bo. And the guy, I'm talking about Hunter. You know, and he always tries to shift the narrative from Hunter, who is a scandalous subject, to Bo, who's a less scandalous, supposedly. And Biden has let this atmosphere around Bo become that Bo was killed in combat. Bo was not killed in combat. Bo was
he died of cancer.
He died of cancer. And then, look, I'm not happy that
it's still sad.
I'm not happy that Bo died, but I'm not. You know, I don't celebrate death at any point in time. But Bo did not die in combat. Let's dispel that narrative right here, right now. He was a soldier. He did deploy. Now, let's be fair. He was the vice president's son when he deployed. Chances are his deployment was, let's call it, less than rigorous.
Yeah.
He was.
Was he even the vice president's son, or was he the senator's son? Because either way, it would have been that. But he was at some point the AG of, what was it, Delaware?
Yeah, he was Attorney General of Delaware, and he was a political person. He came down with cancer and he passed away.
But he's been dead for a few years now, right?
He didn't die recently.
It wasn't just the other day.
Then the fun thing about that is Hunter was so grief-stricken about his brother dying that he went and banged his wife.
Yeah, that's...
and then cheated on her with a stripper in Arkansas.
Yeah, and there's proof of that one in the form
DNA
of child custody
that he knocked up, and yeah. So
tried to get out of because he wasn't making any money, but somehow
he doesn't want to have to release his financial information. Yeah. Because again, I think you'll see ties back to China. We'll see ties back to Russia. The former mayor of Russia's wife gave him $3.5 million. Or the former mayor of Moscow, gives him $3.5 million. Why? Why would the mayor's wife give him $3.5 million? It is interesting that one of the stories I saw that was actually trying to exonerate Hunter was talking about the guy who had the information and the subpoena. They were able to put the paper on light, the subpoena on light, and they were able to get some of the information off the flip side of it. And by doing things, and they were able to kind of piece together who the FBI agent who went and collected the computer was. And they go, oh yeah, incidentally, as an aside, this FBI agent works in child porn cases. Huh. And it was, wait, I think we're glossing over an important detail here. The officer who came to get the computer was an officer who's only known to work in child porn cases. Why would he have showed up? Unless there was at least suspected, that Hunter Biden was in the possession of child porn. Now,
well, let's face facts. Do we know it was Hunter Biden who dropped off the computer, though?
We don't know for certain that it was Hunter Biden who dropped off the computer.
So it was allegedly Hunter
Biden's computer. The computer had a Bo Biden group or whatever foundation sticker on it. And the person who dropped it off gave his name as Hunter Biden. The name on the bill is Hunter Biden. Now, like the shop owner said, he didn't see the guy's ID. He didn't take down his social security number. He can't prove definitively that it was Hunter Biden. But what he can do is say that it was most likely Hunter Biden. And as there are photos on the hard drive of Hunter Biden, it seems highly likely.
I was gonna say, is there possibility that someone got a hold of? Let's also face facts in that if Hunter Biden is as hotshot as he thinks he is, he probably handed that off to somebody to go drop off for him. Yep. You know, no one that kind of persuasive manner does any real work on their own. They got guys to do that for them, or girls.
Well, when you're a crack addict, you might not be acting completely rationally, right?
True.
So,
true.
I mean, let's be honest. Hunter Biden is not the picture of normality. There's one argument here that makes a little bit of sense from the left, and that this is Hunter Biden, this is not Joe Biden. But the question is, has Joe used his position to enrich his son? Has he leveraged taxpayer money and U.S. foreign policy in order to help his son? Not only is that a conflict of interest, but that is actually illegal in that point of time. Then there's also the fact that, is he using his position to prevent Hunter from being investigated, from going to jail, from having other... So we know that Hunter Biden dropped off a rental car in Arizona, and that upon cleaning out the car, a bunch of drug paraphernalia was found in the car. The cops were called, but no case was ever initiated because, well, the person who dropped the car off was the vice president's son. As an aside, Beau Biden was in Iraq when Vice President Biden was inaugurated, flew home from Iraq for the inauguration, and then went back to Iraq to serve out the remainder of his deployment.
Yeah, because everybody's allowed to just leave a deployment in the middle of a deployment.
Yeah,
no biggie.
And then his dad, went and visited him in Iraq on July 4th, 2009. And we've seen that picture, and that's a sympathetic picture, dad and a son. But again, let's make the argument. If you or I were deployed to Iraq, would we have been doing the same kind of mission?
No.
Hey,
can you go on a rant for a little bit? I need to run a quick errand. I'll be right back. All right,
so let's talk about Joe Biden's tax plan for just a minute, because this is very, very, very...
Great.
What?
That's a great thing to rant about.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute. Joe Biden's tax plan, as stated, which is that he's going to increase the corporate tax rates from 21% back up to 28%. He's going to increase taxes for anybody above $400,000. So he keeps saying taxes are only going to increase for people above $400,000. Taxes are only going to increase for people above $400,000. But every economic study has shown that no, while people above $400,000 will see a higher tax increase, people below $400,000 will see a tax increase as well, between 1 and 2%. Now, you might say 1 to 2% isn't a big deal. Most people wouldn't care. But again, it goes back to the point that these are estimations. These are guesses. They're not salutes. They're not, they're not definitive. What we know is that by the best projections we can get, the best modeling we can get, factoring in macroeconomic effects, factoring in externalities and other effects, we will see a tax increase, an effective tax increase for the people at the bottom of the income. The other side of that is prices are expected to rise, the debt is expected to grow, and we're expected to see not only job losses, but wage losses as well. So we have had a wage gain under President Trump. For the first time in 30-something years, wages have gone up for low-income people. But when the Biden tax plan, those wage gains would be eviscerated. Those wage gains would go away. They would be left with no wage gains. So we would be sitting here without all of this extra money that we're getting, and we would be saying, well, what happened? Why is this gone all of a sudden? Well, the reason it's gone is because this tax plan taxes businesses. Those businesses will then turn around and pass that tax on to customers. So if they raise the taxes on a corporation, what they're going to do is they're going to pass that tax increase onto their customers as a price increase in the product. They're going to say, well, we need more money because we're losing more money, and our market share, our statement of cash flows, we need to see the same amount of profit we were seeing before, so we raise prices. We either raise prices or we cut quality. Two options there. So none of this benefits the overall consumer. The low-income individual. All of it benefits wealthy people. Because again, let's talk about it. Everybody loves to say, well, Trump only paid $750 in taxes. Well, yeah. You know why Trump only paid $750 in taxes? Because he could afford to only pay $750 in taxes. Because Trump could afford the lawyers. Trump could afford the accountants that were able to get him out of those taxes. Now, we all know Trump paid more than $750 in tax returns and his income taxes that year. There's multi-millions there that he actually paid that we're not actually seeing. But the reality of the fact is that he paid a lot less than he would have had he not had a team of lawyers, tax accountants, tax lawyers, and tax accountants going through his books and finding every deduction possible. Rich people can afford to get out of taxes that poor people cannot. Poor people are reliant on only the standard deductions, which under Biden's plans would be capped. The standard deduction would be capped under Biden's plan, meaning that you would not be able to fully deduct all of your expenses by taking the standard deduction. You would have to itemize it. And then itemization is capped at 28%. So again, low-income people are going to be hit by this tax plan more than high-income people. High-income people will be able to pay to avoid the increased taxation. They'll offshore their money. They'll invest it in foreign markets. There's a lot of ways they can keep from paying that in the United States. So you say, okay, we're going to raise the capital gains tax. So what do rich people do? They pay the tax, right? No, of course they don't effing pay the tax. They start investing in foreign markets. They put that money in a proxy in a Swiss bank account, and they let that money sit in Japanese markets, in the European markets, and whatever else where they're going to pay lower taxes. They just give themselves a cash payment every year, enough to survive off of. The house is paid for, the cars are paid for, everything else is paid for. They don't need money. They don't need it in their bank account. They can find ways to keep it from being reportable to the IRS. Again, what they're doing is a bait and switch, right? They say we're going to raise taxes on the rich. But in reality, what's actually going to happen is they're going to raise taxes on you. They're going to raise taxes on the poor people because the rich people will either A, transfer that tax, the cost of that tax onto you in the form of price raises on consumer goods, or those people will figure out a way to avoid paying that additional tax, which means that money is outside of our markets. So money that's not being invested in our stock market means it's not being invested in venture capital firms or in ETF funds that then go to fund new business, that then goes to fund small businesses, that then helps us get new jobs in our country. So we'll be helping Europe, and we'll be helping Japan, and we'll be helping China, and we'll be helping those markets, but we won't be helping our own. One of the things that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act actually did was brought a lot of money back into the United States. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Acts to build jobs. Now, there's a myth associated with that. The myth of, well, Trump / tax revenue. Tax revenue year. Tax Cuts and Jobs Act has every single whatsoever because there will be an overall GDP. It seems to work fine until Kyle does something with it, and then it always. I don't wake up when the baby cries, but when I get hit with a sandal, I tend to wake up. And hey, go make me a bottle, or hey, go take care of this kid or that kid because I've got the baby. So when it comes to the other 5, then yeah, mom's got the baby, and I'm the one running around making sure that the other 5 are taken well care of. So yeah, if the dog is barking, I don't even wake up if the dog's barking. I'll sleep right through the dog barking, but my wife will not.
Yeah, typically will too.
My wife will not, and so she will immediately come and slap me and say, "Hey, wake your butt up and go take care of whatever needs to be taken care of."
And typically it's just the dog barking at the moon or
You live in
something.
town. You got other dogs within a mile radius that barked, and she starts barking, then they're barking at each other, and who knows? All right,
Yeah, exactly.
So guys, it was a good talk. Again, Joe Biden is what appears to be allegedly extremely corrupt. You guys can make your own decisions of it. Go read the New York Post article if you can find it, if it's not been completely removed from the internet at this point. I'm certain.
Or just go find the actual piece of paper that it was printed on. They distribute that as well.
So, and try to have a good week and let us know what you thought about the town halls. I thought Trump did actually very well. My favorite part was the lady behind him. There was a black lady behind him.
She's all over Twitter right now.
She was clapping. She was giving thumbs up. She was giving some sassy yes. I think Damani Felder may have a crush. I think there's a former guest of ours that may now have some competition. Hey, he said he was asking for a friend. Yeah, Damani. Yeah. Sure, pal.
Sure.
But that the nice thing about that is that for so long we've seen the left be able to make the argument that Trump doesn't appeal to black voters don't really believe him, whatever. When you have a lady standing right behind him in the national media and she's agreeing with what he's saying, she's validating the information that he's putting out, it gives some more credence to that information. Although we believe the information, now people within that community will believe that information. And man, we didn't even talk about Ice Cube. Did you? Jesus Christ, man.
That was big news.
So, all right, guys, it's been a great night. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. And please let us know in the comments what you think, what you like, what you know, what you see. And God bless you all. Have a great night.
Thanks and gig 'em. Gig 'em and God bless.
I just keep calling on the help of my peers, but their success makes me distressed. Things will be better when I disappear, bouncing from city to state. Nothing feels great, I'm a committed disgrace. If I could get up, hold my chin up, confidence is just a bluff for the weak. Might take a peek in my self-pity to realize it's selfishness for the meek. Just take these pills, it makes it better, but withdrawals will make you seize up and tweak. You gotta buy it every month, we change the brand, it's more expensive this week.